I'm going to call this meeting of the Little Calumet River Basin Development Commission to order for Wednesday, February 21st, 2024. Please set your phones on stun and let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mrs. Lambert, nice to see you. Will you please call roll? Here. Here.
Anthony Brodnick, absent. Derek Bennett,
Here.
Dave Castellano,
Here.
Ron Ware,
Here.
Robert Oshie,
Here.
Levon Whitaker,
Present.
William Baker.
Present. We have a quorum. Next up is the election of the officers for 2024. We've done this a couple of times before, so every year we're going to do it again. Let's say,
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion that we go ahead and continue the officers as they currently sit. William Baker, Chairman, Tom Wishlinski, Vice Chairman, Tom Bezdecki, Treasurer, and Levon Whitaker as the Secretary.
there's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Be there none? Mrs. Lambert?
Tom Wishlinski,
Yes.
Tom Bezdecki,
Yes.
Derek Bennett,
Yes.
Dave Castellano,
Yes.
Ron Ware,
Yes.
Robert Oshie,
Yes.
Levon Whitaker,
Yes.
William Baker.
Yes. Moving right along, next up is the approval of minutes from January 17th, 2024. I'm sure you all read them, went through them. Any motions, modifications, what say you?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to make a modification on the draft minutes. Commissioner present section is missing Tom Wishlinski, and I'd like to replace Tom Bezdecki as being absent. There's just a error in names. With that modification, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
There's a motion with a modification. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
there were some comments I made at the last meeting regarding, and they either made them during the motion for the lease or during public comment section. And the motion had to do with, forming an ad hoc committee as needed for some things. And I would just like to make sure those comments are reflected in the minutes, please.
Mr. Nimitz, there was something through discussion to modify your motion. Are you comfortable with those?
Yes, I am.
So, Mr. Whitlam, this guy named Robert made these rules. I don't know how come, but he gets to make the rules. Is that sufficient to make sure that this all follows the proper protocol?
Yes, it is.
So there's a motion with two modifications. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second, any other discussion? Be there none, Mrs. Lambert?
Tom Wishlinski,
Yes.
Tom Bezdecki,
Abstain.
Derek Bennett,
Yes.
Dave Castellano,
Yes.
Ron Ware,
Yes.
Robert Oshie,
Yes.
Levon Whitaker,
Yes.
William Baker.
Yes. Okay, they're there forever. Next up is the chairman's report. Thank you very much for the vote of confidence. I think we're doing some things that are helping the community. As this continues to evolve, we cannot lose sight of the fact that in September 2008, as you would see in those green now pictures of what happens on a project such as this when there's no maintenance and the communities do not work together. You get $1 billion of problems. We are far better prepared for any type of event than we were prior to September of 2008. But this is a project that is working towards containing Mother Nature. And that's a scary thought in and of itself. If you get 10 gallons of water for a 5-gallon bucket, you're going to have an issue no matter how many folks with mouths you have. So that being said, we are much more prepared, as I mentioned, to be able to handle those things. We removed a lot of obstacles. We're no longer throwing 50,000 some sandbags every time we get a rain event. But we are continuing to find challenges that were left by the designers of this to make sure it meets the current standards and make sure something like September 2008 does not happen again. Enough of that. Thank you. And let's move through to the finance report. So we have to pay some bills. Some of you may not have recalled what it was like when we had no money and couldn't do the things that we're doing. Never lose sight of that. And now we take that very seriously and how those dollars are put into the, not only the federal flood control system, but also the watershed as a whole. For the claims for February 2024, I'll entertain a motion, please.
Mr. Chair, I make a motion to approve the claims for February 2024, the amount of $902,758.39.
I'll second.
There's a motion and a second. Any discussion? Mr. Repay,
Mr. Chairman,
things that you can't cover in your executive report.
no, this is gonna be the two of them. Is, the large portion of it is, for Maryville Stormwater Utility for $345,000. That's the reimbursement for the Kaiser Ditch East Tributary Flood Control Project that you approved. And then the remainder, $299,060.70 is for the, culvert replacement at 113th Avenue in Crown Point. That's another application that you, approved. So of that, it's $600,000 of the 9. And then everything else, I mean, Superior Engineering I will cover just because we have done pump station upgrades and we're in the process of doing the upgrades to the PLCs and some of the other things out at some of these stations that we are under the control of in Gary, and that's for $74,400. Beyond that, it's just typical maintenance, NIPSCO bills, and some small engineering work for the modeling. So everything else, I think I should be able to cover.
So for the two watershed projects, which is the big chunk of this month's bill, are those draws, are those completed?
Those are completed.
So that means they're done.
Done.
And then never lose sight of the fact that we also have to pay the U.S. Geological Survey on their core.
Those are all the gauges that we have throughout the watershed.
Any other discussion?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
Dan, the Tyrone Integrated Services,
Okay.
has two sheets. Or one sheet that has combined invoices. And on the Tyrone Integrated Services, it looks like there was an individual related to the overall bill of the cleaning or work that was performed. Is that an additional person that was on the project?
That's correct. He was the main point of contact, and then he subbed out subbed out the work to a second party. The name escapes me there.
It's his ideas.
There you go. Thank you. And then also we have to rent some dewatering pumps for that area to make sure that the pit was dry when we did those inspections, and to determine what was causing some issues at the Burr North Station.
Oh, thank you.
Any other discussion?
Is the schoon ditch stuff, is that all done?
Scoop ditch is done. The next phase we're working on is it's gonna be Katie Marsh we're doing it in segments just because, so it's manageable. But that's the next phase before hopefully the trees start growing leaves.
But Schoon is basically a Munster thing, right? And Katie Marsh is a Highland.
Highland, Griffith, Gary, and unincorporated or Cal Township.
Separate deal.
It's a long stretch. That's why we wanted to sort of see how much we can do and work through it.
But you're done with Schoon.
We are done.
All right with that?
Okay.
And
Anything else?
United Consulting
Yes.
on the flood structures, are they? I'm looking at the draft to withdraw request, design in the amount of 181,100, and then bidding is 15,500. Is that additional work or?
Once they get approval for the 408 from the Corps to add these two structures, one of them is in Highland and one of them is Hammond, then they'll have to bid it. But right now, we're still waiting for the 408 approval.
So that's like a budget they came up with?
Correct. This is what it's gonna cost me. And actually, it may change a little bit to the positive for us after our meeting with NDOT, which I don't think we're there yet, but when I meet with them.
Thank you.
Dan, I know the levy security was for hunters, and that was an ongoing challenge. Are we done with the security for the hunters? I'm not a
Yeah,
hunting person.
so urban hunting, completed on January 31st. It was initially just for hunting, and we were successful with, people trespassing on property and firing, weapons on our property. It turned into a little bit more. We had some other stuff besides hunters that were going on the levy system. Took your advice by switching up the days, so it was a Tuesday, it was a Thursday, it was a Sunday, it was whatever. So there was quite a bit of activity, one in person, was one of them, and so we're done with that aspect of it, and we're working with the city of Gary to work on some maybe ordinance changes that will help us. Especially with some of the areas in land that's adjacent to our property that people are hunting on. That they shouldn't be, probably for a safety reason, and it's DNR, the conservation officers only have 1 or 2 officers for an entire, I think, 5 or 6 counties, so they can't be just at our location, so this was helpful. And I think most people got the point.
So I appreciate that. So should we be looking at additional security line items in the months moving forward?
No,
Thank you. All right, any other questions?
I have one more question.
Yes, sir.
Dan, the Superior Engineering, bill is getting near 50% of the overall price. Have they been in communication with you on where they're at with the design and everything else?
we have a meeting, next Tuesday at their office to go over the SCADA system and to go over what they've designed so far, and we've been communicating back and forth as far as what we're looking for, not only to make sure the pumps run more efficiently and the PLCs are running the way we want them to, but also the SCADA system to allow a better form of communication. Right now, to give you an example, if it's a high temp failure, that's all I get on my cell phone, we'll be able to log in to their system to see actually what the well is. There could have been the power outage, or if there was no power, that doesn't tell me that. It just tells me there's an alarm, so we'll have a better sense of what's happening out there. So to answer your question shortly, yes, they've been communicating. We have a meeting next week, and then they're gonna go to design for construction, and then we'll hopefully have something by summer, at least order, not necessarily ready.
Thank you.
Anybody else?
Yeah, one more, Dan. Status is Solomon Woods at Pond Point. They're going to start that work again, I can imagine.
They haven't as of like,
Is that on claims?
Oh, it's that, I'm sorry.
All right,
sorry. I'll answer that in the next.
okay. So anything else on claims? 1, 2, 3, be there none, got a motion in a second, Mrs. Lambert.
Thomas Dodge,
Yes.
Tom Godfrey,
Yes.
Derek Nivens,
Yes.
Dave Castellanos,
Yes.
Ron Ware,
Yeah.
Robert Goji,
Yes.
Levon Whitaker,
Yes.
William Baker.
Paying the bills, yes. Moving right along, next up, roll right into the executive director's report, Mr. Repay.
So I'll go into Solomon Woods because it was the last question, and it was probably dying to know the answer. Over the winter time, they sort of taken a hiatus. I go out there once in a while just to see, but nothing's really happening. They have to lay the final infrastructure to connect it to the pond itself. But the pond itself has already been dug and it's already growing. So that is the last component of that. I've already spoken about the pump stations. And then we have submitted our sandbar modification, which is the sandbar that's located on the side of Kennedy Avenue, to the Corps as far as for quantities and making sure that we are in line with what they're seeking. If any commissioner would like to see those plans, I can send those. Kennedy Avenue Bridge, we submitted for a Ready To grant for construction. That is the Kennedy Avenue Bridge that basically raises the bridge out of the way of the flood control. We no longer would have to do any closure structure. That is the lowest part currently in the system from I-65 to state line. So
Other than Northcott Bridge.
well, Northcott Bridge is actually above, but it wasn't approved for whatever reason. whoever designed it, did not go through the proper channels at the court and get approved. So the reason why we closed Northcott Bridge is simply because we don't want it to undercut, as the water's flowing through. But it's not an approved structure, but it's at the Siphon Bridge, which we can talk about at a later time and argue about. Because I don't know why they would seek the approval of the court to do it. We're working with the city of Hobart and Lake County regarding a large beaver dam out in Hobart. They're working through some of the options out there as to how to address it. As I said before, I am working with NDOT about doing and taking over 2 pump stations, one at Kennedy Avenue and then one at Indianapolis Boulevard. That will help us with the project that Commissioner Gazdecki asked about with as far as structures. We believe that once we have ownership of it, we can put the trash rack that's needed to be in it, we can reduce the inlet so we can take in more water. And then we can cut off some of the gates that we don't necessarily need. For those of you that have been around here a while, that's the one that's the diving board that we have to go walk out there and walk on a plank and then drop down sandbags on and thing. We would get rid of that one if this was to occur. So that's a pretty good thing. I know earlier today, the Lake County Commissioners entered into an agreement for the Harts Ditch Stabilization Project. We have it on our agenda. This will be the 3rd part. Geographically, it's from 45th to Brandon. Excuse me. For the sake of time, we're dealing with Wolverine Pipeline on some repair work. Our radio programs, as you know, the first Tuesday and the second Monday, we're doing Katy Marsh Ditch, and then we're still working and hopefully getting the Natural Springs some power. They're having trouble finding flag men to control the traffic on the railroad. So NIPSCO can't run lines over there, which is always fun experience. And then the Lake County Collaborative will be coming to us or here to give a presentation in April is what we have them scheduled for as far as their 24-25 outlook and plan. And then I think for the sake of time and the fact that we have 3 presentations that you will be hearing from, I will yield the floor.
So any questions for Mr. Repay about what's going on in the field? I'll start one. Are we going to be able to do that Kennedy Avenue sandbar this construction season in your mind at this particular juncture?
It would be in the fall if I would be guessing, or if it was on DraftKings.
Any other questions for Mr. Repay? All right, Mr. Repay, go ahead and introduce your watershed application scenarios, please.
Wow. I hope they're here. I haven't seen it for that. The first person is going to be the Grand Boulevard Detention. Who's here? That will expect it to happen. There you go.
Please come to the microphone and state your name and address, please, and help us.
Matt will not be here. Frank will be here.
How can we,
You just, did you log in? No. All right, you need to log into our thing. I'll try to play some good music. Log into our meeting. Yeah. All right, for all the future people, log into our meeting so we can log in.
how do we know?
You go to our website and you can do it that way. Or you can, I mean, if you want to type in all that fun stuff, there's the meeting ID code and password. Well, I'll keep people entertained for the time being.
Or if he's gonna have trouble, is the next town have already logged in, and we would just shuffle the thing.
Sheriff, are you logged in or no?
Let's do it right now.
Look at this pressure.
Yeah.
Put him on the spot. All right.
What else?
Anyone, who else wants to come up? It's like Wheel of Fortune here.
The text is gonna get better, right?
We can jump.
Well, did they know?
Yes.
They knew, all right. Then, you know, what should we tell them if this is how they're going about their projects? Maybe we should have that discussion.
I mean, I know IU is playing tonight and they're not doing well, but you don't have to take it out on everybody here.
That hurts to keep here, man.
He's really a nice guy, everyone, I swear. I was nervous. It's kind of.
A lot of things to come in. All right, well, then
Why don't you-
let
why
me
don't
jump
you go
over to
down to
other
the-
issues and new business.
There you go.
And we'll be able to work through the meeting while everybody tries to start getting of this.
Mr. Chairman, if we're on to new business, I'd like to make a motion that we table the motion regarding Christopher Burke and any of the options.
Any discussion? So, Mr. Repay, put a little bit of light on the fact that this is, a motion with regards to an agreement with Christopher Burke Engineering for the independent levy system evaluation project, which is,
Would you like me to give the overview?
succinctly, please.
That's not possible. The overview is this evaluation is needed for future LOMARs, which are letter of map provisions. But we believe also for all past LOMARs that were approved, which would be Hammond, Highland, and Munster,
So we have three.
would also need this same sort of documentation. But the overall umbrella of this information is making sure that what we were given by our federal sponsors is what it should be and will respond. We go through inspections, but that's on a superficial level. This is gonna be more in-depth, study and analysis. Succinctly as I can.
Thank you. So there's a motion to table. Is there any discussion? Be there none, Mrs. Lambert.
Thomas Dodge,
Yes.
Tom Seppi,
Yes.
Derek Nivek,
Yes.
Dave Castellano,
Yes.
Ron Aaron,
Yes.
Robert Ucci,
Yes.
Levon Walker,
Yes.
William Baker.
Yes. Moving right along.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to make a motion to approve resolution 2024-01 and an interlocal agreement with the Lake County Drainage Board for the Hart Ditch Bank Stabilization Project, Segment 3, in the amount of $1,300,000, subject to final draft and approval by attorney, executive director, and chairman.
There's a motion. Is there a second? Second. And a second, Mr. Repay.
As I said, the county already has approved this one, but we are pending legal approval. I know there's one correction that Derek brought to our attention, and the deadline should have been March 1st of 2025, not 2024. So that was just because this document's been going back and forth for the last couple months. But if there's any other things that you guys would like to change in it, certainly that would be between you and Mr. Whitman. So, but basically, it just outlines the direction. It also closes out the previous two, which is actually three documents of the previous ones. It closes those out and says that we've done everything, we've paid everybody, and all the permits have been satisfied.
So just to add a little additional background to this, Hart Ditch and Deep River are the two primary feeds into the Little Cal, which everything else in the watershed kind of makes its way towards. Hart Ditch has been a challenging one in so much as that's where all of the houses are, and there's significant challenges associated with this, with the volume of water that goes down this. This is an ongoing thing that's gonna be better for decades to come. Any other questions or comments on this one? Motion and second, Mrs. Lambert.
Thomas Dodge,
Yes.
Tom Seppi,
Yes.
Derek Nivek,
Yes.
Dave Castellano,
Yes.
Ron Aaron,
Yes.
Robert Ucci,
Yes.
Levon Walker,
Yes.
William Baker.
Yes. Moving right along.
Mr. Chair, I would like to make a motion to extend billboard license agreements number 1050 and number 4800 with Lamar Companies to expire on November 30th, 2025, pending legal review.
There's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second, Mr. Repay. We have more than two.
Yeah, we have 15 billboards or so, and actually probably more. But this puts it all on, the renewals will all be on the same date, which is November 30th, 2025. It was also further complicated by the fact that Lamar bought few outdoor, and we had separate agreements with those folks. So this is gonna be an agreement that just makes it simple and will renew all, if you guys choose to, renew all the licenses on or before the November 30th of 2025.
Thank you.
Just for clarification, Mr. Chair.
Yes.
So the remaining 13 or so are not expiring right now?
They're expiring on November 30th, 2025.
Okay.
So this just pushes that to that level.
And the goal is to get these all under one agreement now with one company, so there's an easier way to manage moving forward. All right, so there's a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Either none, Mrs. Lambert?
Yes.
Tom Benson,
Yes.
Derek Nivens,
Yes.
Dave Castellano,
Yes.
Ryan Bear,
Yes.
Robert Rucci,
Yes.
Lon Ricker,
Yes.
William Baker.
Yes. All right, folks, back to the presentations. Hopefully somebody's been able to,
Who's got it?
hit the lotto.
Whoever's ready.
Who's ready?
If anyone needs help, I'm not the technological person. We're gonna do to get into the.
Just introduce yourself, folks, and, let's go. They still gotta get it up.
I was having trouble sharing my screen. I know it's a surprise to you, but I was having trouble earlier.
Well, I have to listen a whole month about how you got it all figured out now.
I just hope Indiana gets on a winning streak soon. I was, it was, there you go. Is it? All right.
I'm gonna leave my phone.
Good evening. My name is Chad Nondorf, Director of Public Works for the town of Sherrville. Also in attendance from Sherrville is Town Manager June Gorman and Director of Operations Andy Hansen. We're here tonight to ask for some funding assistance for our Grand Canyon. The Grand Canyon is approximately 14,000 foot long, 14,000 foot in length. Most people know about it because our newly installed Penzi Greenway bike trail is along its banks. We're looking to dredge or clean the northwest section of the canyon this upcoming summer or spring. This section is about 7,000 feet in length. It has about 1 to 2 foot of silt buildup, including phragmites. The southern 7,000 feet was cleaned in 2023 by Delta 3 Construction Company. The unique feature of this canyon is that it has 3 land dikes with 12-inch culverts running through them. In heavy rain events, the canyon is designed and acts as a restrictor holding back stormwater until after the event and not pushing it into the Turkey Creek drainage system at a faster rate. System works very well, but it's time for some more maintenance to occur. Town estimates that it would cost between 40 to 50,000 to clean the 7,000 feet. We're looking for an 80% funding from the Little Cal, and the town will cover the remaining 20% balance if that's possible. We've had 3 companies quoted, still waiting for 2 quotes. One decided not to do it. It's deep in depth, and they're gonna have to put an excavator down into the flow channel to make this dredging occur. So, just want to thank you for your, for considering the project with us. We're very thankful for any funding system we get and what we've received in the past from you. I also have one more update. Years ago, the board here has helped with something called the Sunset Weir, if you recall. It's been on the books for quite a while. That project is almost complete. They'll be finishing that up next week. And this is another stormwater control project that's being installed, and it keeps water out of the Shilling ditch, which eventually goes over to the Dyer ditch. You know, another, control project to hold stormwater back in these rain events. So that's all I have. Did you guys have any questions?
I got a quick one. What's your goal to start the project?
When is it?
Yeah.
As soon as you can get in there after these spring rains, whenever it's dry enough to get an excavator down in there, that's when we plan to start,
So you think around June?
hopefully.
Is it easier after the spring rains or before the spring rains?
If we can get in there quicker, if I get a contractor lined up, we'll get in there whenever we can.
And when was the last time anybody was in there, to your knowledge?
This section, not since it was built 30 years ago.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
How is it restricted from, going to Turkey Creek?
There's 3 land dikes along the way. Each one of those land dikes has a small 12-inch culvert. And this ditch is pretty wide. The canyon is real wide and real deep. So all that water can only go through that little 12-inch culvert in these heavy rains events, and it builds up in that canyon. So it helps the Turkey Creek system in our mind. Works real good, but you gotta have maintenance on this thing at one time or another, and it's that time. We did the southern half last year because we were under construction with our Penzie Greenway bike trail. Delta 3 is the company with the big stick machine, and we got that all dredged out before that trail went in. The unfortunate thing is this northwest half of this trail, or the canyon, I'm sorry, we didn't do it before the bike trail went in, and now there's no room to get this big excavator in there. We have to go down into the canyon itself with the equipment.
Mr. Chairman, is there plans in the future to install larger culverts?
If we have to, yes, we could.
Sound like that's a concern.
Right now, we would like to keep them where it's at because it's working fine. It's holding back that stormwater into, Chapel Lawn Cemetery by our roundabout there. It gets into that section of Turkey Creek, so it works pretty good, but we gotta keep maintenance up. And you guys, you know about maintenance with the little Cal after 2008. We're in the same boat with this.
So the premise really with the canning is to hold water back, not to move it quickly into the creek. Is that the?
That is absolutely correct.
And we did, Dan, didn't we, as it relates to doing the studies and how this all works? Was that a part of that study to have that canyon, quote unquote, holding water?
I don't think it was specifically identified in the study, but this new study that's coming out could be identified as it, because it goes into Turkey Creek. And that's one of the tributaries that we're studying is Big Beaver Dam Ditch and Turkey Creek. Specifically beyond Deep River.
Yeah, because there's a lot of things happening from what I heard on the radio. There's a lot of plans for what's going to go around there. Is that something that's going to be enhanced, or are we going to, start putting culverts in larger pipe? So that's the premise of doing those studies. So these types of things already have some eyes on them, and we were able to factor that into how best to move forward when the municipalities are doing projects. Thank you.
I have one more question, Mr. Chairman. So does the Roman Park facility, does it drain into this canyon?
Yes.
Will the possible future development of the old Ileana flow south back this way to the canyon, or does that go through Route 30?
Most of Ileana's flow goes into the Route 30 system, not into this canyon system.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? Outstanding.
Thank you. We appreciate your time. Thank you
Thanks,
so
sir.
much.
Thank you.
Next up.
Next, whoever wants to I think technologies were good. Okay. Oh, you're good. Yeah, you're good.
No.
Oh, I'm up there.
It's right south.
Someone's gotta stop sharing. Oh, no, you're up. He's up.
Okay,
Oh, you're good.
Okay, I'm in. I'm Frank Stewart. I'm with DLZ on behalf of the town of Maryville. What we have is a project where the ditch is eroding and the roadway, and it needs to be addressed. It's a little undersized. So you look on the first screen here, you see the actual location. It's near the border between the Maryville and Winfield, if you're familiar with it. And then here's a little more closer up. This is the section we're talking about. You see it's immediately adjacent to the roadway. And so what they go wrong way, excuse me. So here's some pictures of what's going on. You see beginning here at the corner where it is, there's the erosion, how close it is, and then there's a little bit of a safety factor of the roadway. That's also a concern with this one while it's eroding the bank and that. And you can see down, we've got erosion. This is the crossing at 97. And this is really where it's bad. If you should be able to see they've been putting in grindings and other things in there to try to stabilize the surface. So that's the need, is basically to make the ditch a little bit more maintenance friendly would be the best way to put that. Safety of the roadway as well as just getting a stable surface. So kind of what the answer is proposing is to move the ditch over enough so that there's a safety factor for the roadway as well as a broader cross-section to convey the water through here and make the surfaces stabilized. The culvert will be enlarged as well. And then, you know, yeah, I guess we'll get to the cross-section instead of me trying to describe it. There's cross-section. So what we're doing to enhance this one as well is that there'll be kind of a two-stage design to it. And you see there's a little more of a slope from the roadway. That's again, the factor of safety for traffic so that they can actually, you know, they get off the road, they can not totally wreck the car.
Right.
And then the other side is 3-to-1 or 4-to-1 to make a little more maintenance as far as that goes. So we've got it as that, and then the culvert will be enhanced and some six inches as it's moved back to. That'll also enhance a little bit of the driving there at the intersection, make sure the turning radiuses are more compatible with the larger trucks as the place grows and the traffic goes up. We've got permits in place with DNR, the Corps, and as well as the other parts. And so it's a very simple one. They do request, like I said, a little assistance with this for the town. I know it's quick and brief, but I hope that's appreciated.
Thank you. All right, next, right, let's do one at a time. Who would like to ask this young man a question? Yes, sir.
Is there any overtopping on that road right now?
There's been some reported, and it won't be that the cross-section will hold the water in as it's modeled.
Brent, can you pull the aerial up over on that again, please? As much as I appreciate the question thing, but go ahead, Mr. Wisniewski.
Sounds like you're ready to go.
Pretty much, Matt said that they've already put offers out. It's just a little bit of property acquisition. So he would plan on maybe the fall to get enough time to finish up that.
So has there been any other, since this is all cornfield out there, has been any consideration about future development? Because it sounds to me like it's $350,000 just to move the ditch over a little bit.
Well, part of that would be the traffic safety for that development and allowing the turning radiuses for trucks and everything else for the future.
So you're staying within inside of that easement? I mean, is it taking in any consideration of development there? I mean, because there's a real easy straight shot taking it away from the roadway, because at some point it'll probably be an expansion of that roadway.
I think there was some talk of that in the future, but this should allow for that, you know, to be done to the west side of the roadway.
Thank you. Anybody else? There are none. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you for your time.
Mr. Burke, nice to see you.
You too, Thomas Burke, Christopher Burke Engineering, talking about High Point Prairie Extension Pond in Dyer. It's a pond that was built about 20 years ago. It's just to the west of Sheffield Avenue, south of 83rd, 81st, and the pond has, when it was built, I assume it was built somewhat correctly, but it has settled over time where the overflow weir is, so we don't have the proper overflow, as well as some homes around it were built too low in relation to the backyard, so that every time the pond starts filling up, it's got the about 150 acres coming from it from the east side of Sheffield and south. There's a lot of yards that flood, people's yards coming close to their house. Fortunately, the overflow weir does take it, and it has not gone in any houses. But this is really to correct a problem that has been existing for about 20 years now, and it's been exacerbated as some settlement has happened. So this picture shows in the orangish color that where we're going to fill in a bunch of homes. The home to the right has not been, it's 204 trillion has not been built yet. So the town will watch to make sure that was built right elevation, and the town owns the next lot. There's a couple more lots on the west side. And the other part of this is to fix the overflow weir so that it's set and the restrictor has been removed because of the problems they're having. Put the restrictor back in and fix the overflow weir so that it is functioning properly. When the application was made back in November, we had an estimate about $100,000. We're asking for a $50,000 contribution. We got several proposals. The low proposal was very very advantageous, that is $65,665.50. So we revised our request a little Cal for $32,800.
What is the east-west street that this intersects or is close to?
Well, Trillium, here it is. It's just gonna be north of 87th.
Yep.
On Sheffield. So it's right next to this is the neighborhood next to Longwood Country Club. And I just got a shiver thinking about that program.
Does that help?
So now this was another neighborhood type of a situation. How does this bubble up with all the other things going on in the town as it relates to stormwater? And where does this fit in as far as our hit list, as far as making stuff happen? I mean, this is a little neighborhood deal. Sounds like a development challenge or developer challenge.
I think if the developer was still developing there, they would go back to the developer and say, hey, can you fix this? But 20 years ago that they came in here and developed it. So it's trying to fix a problem and straighten out, provide more storage than exists today and provide it properly.
And is that a park with a circle around it?
Yes, it is. It's raised, that area is raised. So it's the area to the left and
It's a park just for that particular neighborhood, it looks like, since I can't park a car. But everybody in the region walks now, I heard, so that's good. So there's no parking?
regarding the park,
No, yeah.
I have nothing to do with the park. I'm looking at the potential.
So it basically takes in 100 acres of land to drain into here, and it's a community based. It wouldn't rise to our level. This is a community issue. Like, I don't think it's gonna increase storage tremendously, but it's gonna solve a local issue.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions for this young man?
Chairman, I had a question.
Yes, sir.
Was the original design undersized for this development then? Is that what you're saying? And then will this work correct that or just stabilize it?
This work will correct the overflow, put the restrictor back in and solve the problem of the yards flooding, residential yards flooding. And so while providing the right amount of storage that was originally designed.
So it will meet the original design
Yes.
criteria for storage, okay?
Correct. Without having to use backyards for it.
And that's the end game, right, to prevent the flooding.
Prevent flooding and properly store the water, so the overflow right now is kind of slanted. I'm assuming part of it has been settled, correct, so you don't even have the storage, but when it does get up that high, it's in these backyards and not contained.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anything else, Mr. Repay, as far as trying to get another presentation in there?
That answer we know, we're trying to limit it next month, we'll have 3 more.
Thank you. All right, my favorite's up next. Statements to the board from the floor. If you'd like to help us, please come up to the microphone, state your name and address. And Mrs. Lambert, please help me with anybody that's on the Zoom. Once,
Anybody want to do that would like to speak? No, we're good there.
twice. 5. All right, close that. Next up is going to be us going through the process of saying some things, and we'll start with Commissioner Ware. Let's see, sir.
I guess just, thank you for the presentations, with the possible application for funding. Thanks to those that took the time to come to the meeting tonight. Have a safe month.
Commissioner Whitaker.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As well, thank you for those that are in attendance and present physically as well as by way of Zoom. Last month, some community folks, which at times sort of expressed some concerns at the meeting. And they had some questions and Dan took the time to address some of their concerns. They also took the time to correspond with Dan and share with Dan that they wouldn't mind taking a tour and finding out a little bit more about the watershed project not limited to any specific area in the watershed. I didn't get the impression that it was limited to any particular segment of the watershed. And so I definitely want to commend Dan's office and his correspondence, as well as the commissioners. I do want us to just continue to reflect on the fact that as public servants, although we're not necessarily voted in as public servants, we're still public servants, and our duty is first to serve in that capacity, and show due diligence in that particular role, and it makes our work a lot better and a lot more transparent with Northwest Indiana, in particular the watershed. Secondly, great presentation. I want to thank and commend the three presenters. These presentations, I say this every time, presentations are made, and we sort of come along with it. And we have fewer questions each time because you guys provide us the right information that we're looking for. So thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Commissioner Wishlinski.
Just to kind of piggyback on Commissioner Whitaker's statements regarding the presentations. We appreciate you guys coming out and give us the information and answering our questions. It makes our job a lot easier. And I appreciate everybody that came out tonight, and also the people on Zoom that took the time to listen to our meetings. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Gazdecki.
Commissioners to my right have done a great job. I would echo all their comments, and I thank the audience for coming out. Appreciate that.
Commissioner Nimitz.
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Ochi.
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Castellanos.
Just want to say thank you to all the gentlemen who bring about your proposal and your projects. It's good, excellent. And it's a great addition to what's going to happen for Northwest Indiana. So looking forward to working with all of you. Also, I'd like to ditto with Commissioner Whitaker said. Yes, we have been working with a few community groups, and they're looking forward to being at our next meeting, requesting some help and some issues that benefit their community. Thank you and have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Wickland.
Nothing good.
Mrs. Lambert, you gonna throw me off and say something?
Nothing good.
All right, thank you. All right, that being said, the next meeting is Wednesday, March 20th. Please check the website for the location. Appreciate everybody coming out and enjoying the 60-degree weather in February, and we're not done with the snow. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
And a second. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those in favor? No? Yes? Thanks, everybody. Be safe.